Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey, it's Debbie Potts, the host of the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, and I just wanted to give you a little more info on our guest today. His name's Danny Walsh, and my husband Neil actually met him at Expo West, the natural product show, this past March, and we got a sample of his coffee, Peak State coffee, and I loved it, and I wanted to learn more. I'm like, what is going on? Why is this coffee so amazing? It has mushrooms in it, on the beans. And so I reached out to Danny and finally got a interview scheduled with him. It's called Peak State Coffee. And we're going to talk about mushrooms, adaptogens, and how did they get the mushrooms in the coffee? And how is it low acidity? And how does it work for us? When should we have coffee? And when should we not? When is a mushroom, is lion's mane good to have, or reishi, or cordyceps, and all this fun stuff that I'm learning more about mushrooms and how we can incorporate them into our morning routine. So Danny got into this, which I always think it's so impressive when people think of an idea and bring it to life and make a business about it. It is such a hard job to create a product and launch it and bring it to life. So you got to really admire small business owners. I am always ready to support small business owners because I know owning my own fitness studio for 10 years and trying everything I could to be successful, having it the all-in-one studio and trying to get people to understand the low carb, higher fat, higher protein, and doing the biohacking with the sauna and acupuncture and nutritional therapy. All that was so much work. And that's where a lot of my chronic stress came from, not just from doing Ironmans and 50K races and marathons and all that, but it was accumulation of the chronic stress of running your own business is freaking hard. And especially as a trainer and a coach, you're working with people all day and then you still have all the back end work to do. So any small company owner, high five to you. You guys are amazing. And Danny Walsh is one of those people. He's an outdoor person. He's in Boulder, Colorado. So most people that move to Boulder go for the outdoor living. Recreational athlete. He's an entrepreneur. And he was diagnosed with a stress-related, of course, chronic stress impacts everything, as I always say. He got an autoimmune disease in his last year of college, and he turned down the offer for a desk job instead of looking for building trails so he could move his body all day and be outside in nature. During this time, he learned to forage and brew chaga tea. He couldn't stop thinking about how good chaga and medicinal mushrooms made him feel. Soothing, relaxed, calm. His focus was improving. He kept managing his stress and started incorporating these adaptogenic mushrooms into his morning routine for daily stress and immune support, and eventually putting them into coffee. When he looked to see what was out there for mushroom coffee, there wasn't a single product that tasted like coffee without compromise. Soon after, Peak State Coffee was born to help people upgrade their morning routine with high quality coffee with added health benefits for immune support, stress support, and cognitive health. Today, Peak State is the world's first whole bean functional coffee infused using their patent pending process for daily wellness and to keep you functioning at your peak state. When Danny is not working at Peak State, he is climbing, skiing, or spending time with his partner or trail running with his dog, Tuckerman. And I always like to ask people, as you may have noticed on the show, I always like to know what's your why. So maybe, do you have a why? Do you have a purpose? What are you passionate about? What are you driven to do? It makes you excited and happy every day. That's an important part of longevity. I just actually did a seminar for our Ben Greenfield transformation group I help coach on optimizing your brain for improved cognition, focus, clarity, improving the aging process. So how we want to live our life when we're 70, 80, 90 years old I want to feel amazing. And a lot of that was working on eating nutrient-dense foods, being outside in nature, and really having a sense of purpose. And that was pretty cool to learn about. So Danny's why, he'll explain more, but just give you a heads up. His why is helping to connect to a more natural state. Nature heals. And he said, we have lost our way. We must return to eating a real nutrient-dense foods, moving our bodies, connecting with our breath, getting enough sleep, spending time in nature, and doing what makes us feel alive. I agree 100%, right? That's what the 8 elements of the holistic method that I put together 10 years ago. And that's why I feel like I'm thriving every day, because I moved 2 years ago almost to San Diego, North San Diego, inland from Solana Beach. And I live in the outdoors pretty much. I sleep inside a house. I don't sleep outside with the coyotes, but I thrive every day being outside in fresh air. Really realize how happy I am being out in nature, and it does make a difference. So adding adaptogens to coffee, it just really helps add that cognitive benefit in the morning and helping us focus. And peak state coffee is a great thing to add in the morning. Try it out. We do have a discount code. I always ask everyone for a code to give our listeners. Peak State has introduced coffee with adaptogens to boost performance, immunity, brain health, and sustain energy throughout the day. It's keto friendly and good if you're doing a fasted morning workout, want a little coffee beforehand and get the extra boost of energy. And you can get 20% off your first order using our code, the low carb athlete. And that will be in the show notes if you missed that. But the low carb athlete for 20% off Peak State coffee. I'll have to check if it's the low carb athlete or just low carb athlete, but we get a discount. So go to peakstatecoffee.com/low carb athlete and see if that should work when this comes out. But let's bring on Danny and talk about coffee with benefits, adaptogens, and all thing health. And again, if you want to learn more about if you are doing all the right things and still can't get the desired results, let me help you. That's what I do full time. The podcast is for fun, to help you figure out ways to be your best self, look your best, perform your best, and age your best in life. And I have a new client special with 2 45-minute coaching sessions. And I assess what you are doing now, look at the 8 elements of the holistic method, and then look at your workout program. If you're training for anything, just kind of get a glance at what you're doing. I use my nutritional therapy food log and symptoms that we correlate any signs and symptoms there. And then I give you a big online questionnaire, nutritional therapy assessment, to find out if there's any imbalances within your hidden internal stressors as hormones, immune system, digestion, detoxification, energy systems, your minerals, nervous system, and more. So if you want to take advantage of my new client special and just kind of get an idea if you are doing all the right things and what do we need to tweak or course correct, and find your areas of opportunities, and then create some action items for you, just give me a message via the website, debbiepotts.net. That is my great way to get started working with me. And then you can always do more or meet monthly. And then I do have an accelerated program that offers coaching and functional lab assessment and genetic assessment to create a individualized plan with more clues that we collect and put the missing pieces of the puzzle together. Then I have a high-end package that's 6 months or longer, comprehensive VIP package that's the full meal deal. So if you want more, head to the website, debbiepotts.net. But for now, let's go talk about coffee, my favorite way to start the day. Cup of coffee, and then I go outside for my sunrise workout, bike ride or run or hike, or I do yoga some days in my rest days. But coffee is always in there in the beginning of the day. Just have a few sips to get started. So let's learn more. Let me know your comments in the show notes below. All right, guys, I have a different topic today with Danny Walsh talking about coffee, the benefits of coffee, and coffee with benefits. So thanks, Danny, coming on the show, as I really wanted to dive into what we'll talk about today, the powerful mushrooms, the adaptogens, and how they can really help our immune system, recovery, repair, sleep, stress, and so much more. So thanks for coming to share your story with our low carb athletes.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Debbie.
Let's talk about your background. Like, what is your why? And we'll talk about what coffee with the benefits we'll get into your product, but let's kind of talk about what drives you to do what you're doing and what you are doing.
Totally. I started Peak State because I wanted to help people take health into their own hands a little bit more. A lot of people feel like, that it doesn't matter what they do proactively. Obviously not people here listening to this podcast, but, a lot of people don't realize how much of their own lifestyle habits can affect their health and how much being proactive about that can do so much holistically for your health. So started Peak State to help people put health into their own hands and also to use business as a force for good, for health, for the planet. I believe we've kind of lost our way and disconnected from nature a little bit too much in the natural way of moving our bodies, getting outside, breathing fresh air, even connecting with our breath. We've lost some of that. And so our brand is about that reconnection to that more nature's intent.
Yeah. So did you have a personal experience that led you to figure out that where I am personally so disconnected with nature, or did you have some like aha moment that made you go this direction?
I kind of did, in addition from always being an outdoor athlete and nature lover.
And you live in Boulder, by the way, so people can understand. People in Boulder are usually outdoorsy.
Of course. And this was after my aha moment that I moved to Boulder, actually.
Oh, okay.
My journey began, I was actually diagnosed with an autoimmune disease related, made worse by stress. And doctors told me that I had to make a change. At the time, I was working behind a desk as an engineer. I was a bioengineer, and I needed to really dramatically change. And I actually spent some time in nature to totally change careers and lived in the woods building hiking trails for 4 months. And during that time learned about chaga and that it can be consumed as an immunity tea. Knowing that I was struggling with an immune system related issue, I started taking chaga every day. And I was skeptical, but I couldn't believe how soothed and relaxed and calm it made me feel. And as more of a coffee guy, I just started putting it in my coffee every day. And this story is anecdotal, but believe it or not, by the end of that 4 months, all my symptoms had completely gone into remission of this particular inflammatory stomach issue that I had. And the doctors didn't even understand it. They told me that I would have this for life. And, and so that was kind of something that was enough for me to say, wow, there's something here. And I want to help get these health benefits out for other people to benefit from.
Yeah, it's you don't know exactly what it is, but probably the combination of it, not just the chaga, but combined with what we say stacking. Or my new focus is always what can we stack to make it the most efficient use of our time and optimal combination of things to restore health and regain homeostasis, balance in our body. So if it's what we always talk about with our coaching clients is getting outside in nature, going through the woods, playing in the dirt, doing fasted morning walks, being up at sunrise, watching the sunset and getting that circadian rhythm reset and finding that balance between our nervous systems. We're so sympathetic dominant. So many of us are just on fire all the time in fight or flight that we lose that resiliency to bounce back and forth. Not being in parasympathetic all the time is not great, but we want to be able to shift back and forth as that we talk about nutritionally, be back and forth with fat to sugar, metabolic flexibility, but it's also resiliency with their nervous system. And I think being in nature and going on a retreat like that for a lot of people is so beneficial. Like they say, to reset your circadian rhythm, go out and camp. That you don't have, Wi-Fi, you don't have alarm, you're in the dark, you're sleeping when it's dark and you're awake when it's light and all of that. But I think I really want to learn more and share more with our audience about the benefits of mushrooms and the benefits of coffee. Again, more is not better. It's that right balance of everything. So talk about what you found with the chaga, what that does for us. You said immune system, but what about other mushroom adaptogens? What have you learned about them and the benefits of coffee and how you put that together?
Sure, absolutely. So medicinal mushrooms or functional mushrooms, they've actually been consumed for thousands of years around the world, Russia, in China, traditional Chinese medicine, even Native Americans, and so they are different herbs and medicinals that have been homeopathic solutions for a lot of ailments, and if there's one thing that we know now with the increase in recent studies is that they can help immunomodulate or activate the immune system to support overall health. There's also a big immune gut connection with all of them. They're all prebiotics that help with gut health. And so, it's kind of like does the right groundwork for probiotics. And so that's the big one is immune support. And, some of the more interesting recent studies are also suggesting that mushrooms such as lion's mane, for example, can help with memory and cognitive function. And if you want, I can tell some stories of some of the studies and get pretty granular on some of these if you'd like.
Yeah, especially since tonight I'm actually giving a seminar on brain optimization and talking about lion's mane. So you can give me some brain fuel to help relay that message to our listeners in our coaching group.
Sure. So it's important to say, the more evidence, the more studies we can do, the better. Obviously, they take funds. But what is already out there? There's some amazing studies in mice with lion's mane where they were intoxicated with something that basically caused cognitive dysfunction. Then some of them took lion's mane supplements. They were injected with lion's mane, able to overcome that cognitive dysfunction compared to the placebo group that did not have lion's mane. And so that was mice, right? And then there was another study in Japanese men and women who are between 50 and 80 years old, who are all showing signs of mild cognitive impairment, early stage Alzheimer's type of thing, and took lion's mane for 16 weeks. And they were performing these cognitive tests during that time period. By the end of the 16 weeks, they had progressed rapidly. Then they stopped for 4 weeks, and then their cognitive performance declined. So that was perhaps the greatest evidence in humans that lion's mane really does help with cognitive function. And there's another really powerful story about a woman with multiple sclerosis who was taking lion's mane for her own health and swears by it, and it has helped stave off the progression of it. So lion's mane is fantastic for that reason. And then, there's also a whole other, we can cover different types of other health benefits if you'd like, but I could just ramble about lion's mane by itself if you'd like.
Yeah, well, let's kind of touch on each of them. So think about regarding the athlete. So the athlete that's listening probably is focused, I hope, if they've been listening for a while, it's all about longevity right now for me is, what am I doing now as an athlete to promote my health or enhance my health and improve the aging process for my future self. So as I just turned 50, I watched my parents age. They're 80 and my dad's struggling with a lot of different things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I do not want to look like that and feel that way when I'm 80. I want to be thriving every day. And so that's what I keep trying to share on the show. Are you an athlete slowing down the aging process from doing too much in life that you're actually causing more damage than good? Or if I'm an athlete, how can I stack these supplements, stack my behavior, my lifestyle habits to enhance the aging process and even reverse it? So I'm all about what kind of hacks and stacking those biohacks can we do to improve it all?
So great. Yeah, let's do it. So antioxidants are perhaps one of the greatest ways to stave off some of the effects of aging and damaging free radicals that we can take in with stress from exercise or our external environment. Taking a step back, so coffee, believe it or not, is the single greatest source of antioxidants in humans or in Americans at least. And so in all foods that you could possibly consume. So that's pretty amazing. And of course, if you're really seeking some of these more adaptagenic and parasympathetic effects, it's not necessary for you to drink coffee. That's actually potentially going to go against your desire. But if you're somebody who's already drinking coffee, that's who we're for. If you're already drinking coffee and you might drink it as an athlete because you know that it helps support your performance, the caffeine, and then you want something that's even healthier for you, then coffee can be fantastic when it also has adaptogens So getting back to your question about longevity. So the antioxidants in coffee itself, and then the antioxidants in medicinal mushrooms are really powerful. So chaga, for example, tests higher on the OCAR score than almost any food for antioxidants.
Why explain what the OCRI is?
Yeah, it's just a measurement for antioxidants. Okay. So detoxifying and and eliminating free radicals that can damage our cells. And so that's what's amazing about chaga. And reishi is also considered a longevity mushroom. A lot of people take that as the longevity mushroom. And so, and then, also you're talking about ways to recover from your exercise. Cordyceps, there's a really cool study with adults doing erg machines, taking 4 grams a day of cordyceps. And by the end of at least 8 weeks, they had an improved VO2 max anaerobic threshold. And they basically were able to recover, stave off fatigue faster during their exercise performance. And that was statistically significant. What they're basically saying in that study with cordyceps is that it helps delay the effects of lactic acid buildup. So if you've ever kind of hit a lactic threshold where that's why you're fatiguing, which I'm sure you have with a lot of your endurance events, that's what cordyceps can help with that recovery.
Yeah, I think it's also looking at more is not better. So people hear benefits of things like HIIT training or drinking coffee, but then they are the typical type A driven, ambitious athlete as individual, high charging individual. Doesn't mean you're athlete or not, but we tend to take this information we hear on a podcast or blog and then take it to extreme because everyone seems to have that more is better philosophy, but it's that Goldilocks effect. I'm sure there's some limitations to, overdosing with too much chaga and adaptogens that could be detrimental. So finding that right balance for you as an individual, as with everything we talk about, take and do in life to find that right boost, like what's that right dose for me to create that magic potion.
Moderation is key. It's a cliche, but it's true.
Yeah. But the main ones, mushrooms we hear about, chaga, cordyceps, reishi, and lion's mane. Are those kind of the main ones you research and look at adding into what we'll talk about next is how you stack those with coffee?
Sure. Yeah. And then turkey tail as well.
Oh yeah. Turkey tail
is a really powerful immune supportive and antioxidant rich, gut healthy medicinal to also consider supplementing with.
So it's not like we want to go forage mushrooms and just start eating all these mushrooms all day long. There's an appropriate way to get them and get like the certain amount on research, if it's like how many grams of mushrooms and then how to take those in instead of having this high mushroom diet. Is there a way, like if I find a turkey tail mushroom that I see at the farmer's market, and do I eat it, or is it better to have, it's more pure, broken down, to get a lot more for like a tablespoon of powdered version? So what's the ideal way to take in the mushrooms to get these benefits?
Yeah, a lot of the latest studies showing for them to be as bioavailable as possible, you want to actually make sure that it's extracted. So you can extract some of these nutrients out with a hot water extraction, i.e. making a tea, and also with an alcohol extraction, and some also use fermentation as an extraction. And you end up with an extract, and that the latest research is really saying that that's the best way to make sure you're getting the most out of these. We can't really break down the cell wall, the chitin of the fungi if we just eat it raw. So look for an extract, and it's really important to make sure you're taking at least 500 milligrams per serving. And what the research says is you want to take, you get these results. It's not like you take lion's mane and all of a sudden you have a eureka moment of where you're Albert Einstein. It has to do with chronic supplementation. Doing something every day.
Consistency.
Exactly.
Yeah. Being consistent with it. But is it any research of powder versus like a liquid form, taking it liposomal, or was the best way to get your dose?
I recommend just making sure that it's dual extracted. And most of the time that is a tincture or a liquid. A lot of powders that you'll buy they don't even tell you whether it is mycelium or fruiting body. And they don't tell you whether it's extracted or raw. And they don't tell you where it comes from, whether that's, from the United States or somewhere where there could be heavy metals and toxins in the soil. And so I recommend, and this is just me, is I recommend looking for organic US grown, both full spectrum, mycelium and fruiting body that has been dual extracted. So I personally recommend a tincture, and that would be, but there's a lot of debate between mycologists and herbalists about this topic right now because it's still very new.
Yeah. Well, I always question powder forms. I listened to a podcast a year ago or so on Ayurvedic medicine and how the Ayurvedic doctor was saying so many of the powders are not really absorbing into our body versus because they're more drying, and that we want more liquid or real food sources. But, to get 500 milligrams of something, you definitely need like a tincture or liposomal delivery. But it's interesting to hear does that, taking all these supplements, I always wonder how much do I actually break down and absorb in my body? And then taking, a powdered form, how is that actually breaking down my body? Because I know there's a lot of research right now. I just saw today on, for example, collagen powder. Is it effective versus having the source of collagen from eating animal meat bones and the collagen in there? So same with mushrooms, it's getting it from a good quality source without the heavy metals, which is the big thing. I think a lot of people don't realize the toxicity of products where we get like having sea salt. There's a big thing on that, but where is it sourced from, I think is a big factor people need to look at how it's made. So
absolutely.
Talk about coffee benefits, and then we'll talk about stacking it with mushrooms, the why and the how and when to take it.
Sure. I mean, so, I mentioned the antioxidant benefit of coffee, and, coffee is it's the number one drink. And so, it's something that you drink every single day. A lot of people forget a morning vitamin or supplement, but if you're a coffee drinker, it's unlikely that you forget your morning coffee. And so from an efficacy and a compliance perspective of incorporating a supplement into your routine, that's why we chose coffee as something, that is more interesting than a pill or a powder, which we're seeing a lot of fatigue with pills and powders. And Peak State exists to help people make their morning habit, and take their morning habit, stack it with something that they're seeking to do proactive for their health, and do it every day.
So your coffee company that you started is Peak State. So does that mean we're trying to peak state of brain flow, focus, cognition benefits, and being our peak state? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's exactly where we're going. We want to help people feel at their best. We want to help people perform at their best. Coffee is always the first step to a lot of people's day. And we're focused on those people who are already drinking coffee or don't really want to stop and want to have that added healthy performance and health boost in their morning routine. And so, yeah, Peak State is also sort of a slightly nature, it's kind of a double entendre with the mountains in our logo. So a little bit of both.
Yeah. So let's talk about how you stack. What do you have with your mushrooms in the coffee? What does that look like, and how is it made, and what's in it? What type of mushrooms?
Sure. So one thing we do with our coffees is we were the first whole bean coffee with these benefits. So what that means is if you are a coffee aficionado, if you really like a fresh cup, and it's okay if you don't get as complex, in your morning coffee, so we had to figure out how to do that. How do you make sure that you're delivering an efficacious dose of 500 milligrams plus of reishi, lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps, turkey tail into whole bean coffee? And so that was where we went down the rabbit hole and spent several months in a commercial kitchen prototyping different things. And finally, we developed a patent pending process for infusing botanical extracts. So if you think tinctures, you think, if to use a comparison to like vanilla extract. And we learned through by playing with temperature and time, we were able to infuse a tincture into the beans without changing the taste and without doing it at a temperature that it would denature the beneficial compounds. So we sent samples of our brewed coffee to a lab to be tested for beta glucans, which are some of the antioxidants that can support our immune system that you can really only get from these medicinals, to confirm that it was working. And so that's a little bit about how our infusion process works. And I can't get too much deeper because it's proprietary. But and then the other thing that we do that is synergistic is thinking about coffee has different roast levels, and there are different performance and health benefits you can get from different medicinal mushrooms. The roast level can affect the caffeine level. So we often pair our more caffeinated roast levels with lion's mane and cordyceps for focus and energy support. And then on the other end of that spectrum, we have a medium for daily immune support, which has a blend of all 5 of the mushrooms we've been discussing, to just for that proactive immunity support and wellness. But then our darker roast, which a lot of people don't know, dark roasts actually have less caffeine. That's when we add the adaptagenic benefit for more stress balance and activating that parasympathetic nervous system. So you're drinking something with less caffeine that is already going to sort of help you with not being as jittery. And then the adaptogens like reishi is really the most adaptogenic of these medicinals that can activate that parasympathetic nervous system and help you feel even keeled and a little more balanced when you're drinking your morning coffee.
Yeah, because I think that's a good point of not everyone should have coffee. If you are high stress levels, do you want to add more stress to your body? If you're already overstimulated, adding coffee is not ideal if you have more high hyperadrenic function, HPA axis imbalance with high levels of cortisol. But then if you have lower levels, so if we have that optimal window for too high or too low, there's ways to kind of boost energy. So taking like reishi, the adaptogens, to have a little more boost without getting the highs for the caffeine highs that's overstimulating someone that's already overstimulated, if that makes sense. So you have the right amount for where am I in my life today? I go meet the person where they're at today, but also in that week or month, and how they can change what type of dose of their morning coffee is going to give. If it's going to be more a mental boost, or I need energetic boost, or I just want to have the taste of coffee.
And we have a decaf too. I mean, it's, a lot of people think it's a hard sell, but decaf is fantastic. It's a way to keep drinking coffee and enjoying the taste and the warmth and the antioxidants, and just sipping on a drink. And if you really can't handle the caffeine, look for a decaf option, and make sure it's a Swiss water process, which means it doesn't have any chemicals used to decaffeinate it.
Well, that's a thing with coffee I was going to ask, is there's high mold in a lot of coffees and coffee beans. And I think Dave Asprey started that awareness with his Bulletproof coffee years ago, of being more aware of the coffee beans, where they're coming from. They're not like Starbucks coffee beans that are high mold, and like the Keurig coffee cups I read years ago, high mold, and you can kind of taste it. I'm very aware of when I have more toxic, you can just taste the difference in quality when there's higher toxins in it. But what do you find is like something to look out for someone looking for coffee that has, toxic free, mold free? What should you look into when you're doing your coffee beans to get that cleaner, pure coffee?
Yeah, Debbie, I'm so happy you asked this question, because I think it's so important. There's Monsanto chemicals in so many foods that are not organic, and it's so important to find an organic coffee to make sure that you're not drinking pesticides that we now know can cause harm to reproductive organs. They can potentially even cause cancer. Glyphosate, so organic is so important for that reason. Additionally, if you look from a mold perspective, you can mitigate the likelihood of mold by buying single origin coffee rather than a blend. It's also, there are brands like us what we do, we third-party test for mycotoxins in mold, and we're 100% mycotoxin and mold free, which is really exciting. But you can see if the brand that you're buying publishes any information, or you could ask customer service, hey, have you tested for mycotoxins and mold? And so those are my tips at a high level for toxins and mold.
I also comes to mind, you get what you pay for is what I was saying, right? If I'm going to have coffee that's going to be $5 a pound, I'm going to get crap coffee that's going to be actually more harmful to my body because I'm putting toxins, mycotoxins, glyphosate. I mean, my head hurts if I have it. You just feel like, oh, I just put chemicals in my body. So I think people need to remember that to eat clean, organic coffee, food, everything, we do have to spend more money. We're investing in our health, and your health is your wealth, that you're just really have to be careful. Especially I was on this cruise ship all last week and I was sick so many times. My head was spinning. I had to take some liver support pills. I'm like, what is in the environment? And so when you're in this clean, pure environment at home, you realize how toxic our world is when you get outside of your bubble. But it does, you have to invest in it. It is a choice you make where you put your money.
A lot of people say, hey, I love the idea of organic. It's just so expensive. And I'm like, it's cheaper than healthcare.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the seminar I was saying I'm giving tonight. I was just working on my PowerPoint slides, and everything to prevent blood-brain barrier damage and leaky gut, leaky brain. They're all choices. It's, what we eat, the toxins, it's sleep, it's movement throughout the day, it's managing your stress, it's everything I talk about in the holistic method. Like, all this is a total choice. So what we said last week is great. Like, if people say, make fun of you for the choices you make, being healthy and doing like a gluten-free, toxic-free food plan lifestyle, that you're not restricting yourself, you're protecting yourself. I'm protecting myself from brain disease, from blood-brain barrier. I don't want dementia, cognitive decline. So I'm choosing to take care of myself now, so I don't have dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's when I'm older. So I was like, why would you not invest in your health to take these decisions, make these decisions now, be proactive than waiting till like, oh my God, I can't remember that person's name in front of me. And you have that. It's like, why can't we just realize that? It's just so frustrating to me when I look at the research on brain optimization, how it is all up to us, really. It's not something we just have happen. It's because of the choices we made early on in life.
So true.
So talk about what you're combining the coffee with the different adaptogens or mushrooms. So each one, if we are looking for, let's break it up into goals. So if we're looking for, I want a little performance hack before a long bike ride or run, what would I choose? If it's for recovery, I try to avoid caffeine after 11 a.m. But where do we place this coffee if we can have a choice? How can it improve our performance, recovery, and perhaps, without the coffee, maybe it's for sleep and then stress.
Totally. That's, and I'm not going to claim that my coffee can help with all of those things at once.
Good idea. Don't claim anything.
No claims. No. But, so again, like thinking about, the first question I always have people ask is what type of roast do you normally drink? Myself, earlier in the day, I like the most caffeine. I woke up at 5 a.m. today to get my workout in and do some cold water immersion before this podcast. And like, I needed caffeine. So I drank the most caffeinated blend that we have, which is our brain sustain. And that has, the cordyceps, which I took for performance, and it has the lion's mane, which helps with, that cognitive support. So, but then if you're later in the day, you don't really want to take in so much caffeine. So that would be my recommendation, is go for a lighter roast if it's earlier in the day, and start to taper all the way to a decaf if it's afternoon. Or you can do things like, if you're sensitive to caffeine, you can mix a decaf in with any of our roasts and create a half calf. And, that's typically how I think about it. As far as a coffee for recovery goes, chaga and reishi and cordyceps are all great for recovery, for how they support with antioxidants. cordyceps, as I mentioned, for that, lactic acid in recovery as an adaptogen. And reishi, obviously drinking coffee for sleep is not really something that people do. However, I will say that there's some really cool and interesting information related to sleep with both reishi and with cordyceps. So one thing that they found with reishi, this was in mice, but they found that there's a microbiotic relationship with serotonin, like a pathway when they took reishi. So that's where they found that because it has certain gut health effects, it helped them sleep. And then one of the most fascinating studies I've seen with cordyceps is how they were realizing that it helps reset the body clock. So if you have cordyceps and say, for example, and you travel on an airplane and you have jet lag, it'll actually help your body adapt and reset your circadian rhythm to the natural environment so that the effects of your jet lag are severely reduced. And so that's a really interesting thing. So taking in cordyceps, even if it's in your coffee in the morning, can help with that natural resetting of the circadian rhythm. And taking a decaf, we have a decaf that has cordyceps and reishi. So you can kind of find something that allows you to access these health benefits, but doesn't give you the adverse effects of caffeine if your goal is sleep.
Yeah. Do you have, would you make this into tea ever and do like a sleepy time tea with reishi or stack different non-coffee caffeinated products with the the mushrooms?
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to help people through their daily routines. And so I think down the line, coming out with something for the evening, whether it's a tea or a hot chocolate, it's in our roadmap. Yeah.
Less is more, like master one thing at a time, right?
Yep.
As a business owner, we tend to like, I want to do this and this and this. And it's so hard to just like focus on one thing and perfect that, and then add on the next layer. It's so
100%.
True. So adaptogens, just to clarify, how would you describe adaptogens?
Yeah. So they're plants, herbs, medicinals that grow in very extreme environments. And as a result, when you consume them, they make us more resilient to stress. So they are stress supporters, stress balancers. And stress can come in so many different ways from toxins in the environment, from lifestyles, from physical, exercise that we induce, from
paying
our own
bills,
thoughts,
financial bills.
And so they help us recover and be more resilient to stress, which is why adaptogens are having a big moment right now.
Yeah, it's pretty big in our society right now, is those adaptogens, and the mushrooms seem to be coming out in a lot of different products. But I think the key word I hear that you just said is resiliency. And, learn from the past few years of our world. And I think it's, what can I do to build resiliency, to be stronger? And we talk about those hormetic stressors, to have that acute dose of stress, and that I'll rebound and get stronger. Like if I'm lifting weights, I break my muscles down in recovery, and that's how I get stronger, is that muscle repair and recovery. But same thing with taking medicinal herbs as mushrooms, and how I can take something that will help me get stronger and build resiliency, having it. So is it medicinal mushrooms, adaptogens, is that same kind of thing, that it will be a stressor, acute stressor, and we get stronger from it? How does it make it more resilient? Us more resilient.
Yeah. So like getting into the biology of it, it is, I won't claim to be like an expert on exactly what's happening with adaptogens, but what I will say is like it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, and it also helps fight inflammation, which is perhaps the greatest enemy that comes from stress. And so, that is what I have seen so far about how adaptogens actually help us. I'm happy to kind of get back to you a little bit deeper on exactly what's happening
I just had
physiologically.
No, I just was thinking of that, thinking out loud, processing it. It was like rabbit hole. But I just find it so interesting to look at like, how do things work? How I always ask the why, like, how does this adaptogens help us, but how does it help? And is it like a hormetic stressor for us taking that food that just makes us stronger? But it's also, the gut brain connection I was just talking about in my presentation today is the vagal nerve, and how important it is to connect the gut and the brain together to optimize health and longevity. But the brain optimization part of it and digestion and everything always goes back to vagal nerve, vagal nerve tone. That's what everything comes back to, that when I do research. And I would be curious to, tie that all together with taking these foods that are medicine and how that can strengthen our gut and strengthens our brain, and how to tie it all together to really be a better version of myself in 10, 20, 30 years from now. What I'm doing now is all to do that gut brain connection, inflammation, vagal nerve, parasympathetic, resiliency. It's just, looking at the whole person.
The interconnectedness of it all is what's so fascinating. People talking about the brain gut connection and the immune gut connection. And it's just also interrelated that it's like scientists are learning more and more about how complex our bodies and our brains are. And it's fascinating.
Yeah. It's a lot of rabbit holes to go down, like your microbiome and how it's all connected. It's amazing. But I think, looking at food as medicine, as I just said, and how the choices we make now can help our future self, but our performance and a recovery repair from our current workouts. And I think it's, how to improve that repair system so important, because a lot of athletes are pushing themselves too hard. And maybe as we age, we need to allow more recovery time, but helping that process with taking the right nutrient dense foods and adding, a coffee with adaptogens, mushrooms as your peak coffee benefits, but also like I'll put some in my protein drink mix with whey protein and colostrum, and throw a mix of powder mushrooms. I should look for some liquid versions, but it just seems like there's so many different things we can do to stack to improve that recovery and repair process, which will in overall help us with longevity, reducing that stress and inflammation.
Couldn't agree more. And the main message is like there's a lot of food groups we incorporate in our diet, but one of the ones that we're missing out on the most is this entire kingdom of fungi, and how they have some subsets of them are really nutrient rich, really nutrient dense. And we have not been incorporating them in our diet very much because people are hesitant to. They might be, mycophilic, in other words, have some sort of irrational fear of them or incorporating them. And so it's just important to make sure that you cover that base in your diet to have a well-rounded diet,
Mm-hmm. But we shouldn't just go pick mushrooms from my yard. Like I have this indoor fiddle leaf plant I'm growing in our house here in San Diego, and I saw there's somehow a mushroom growing in it. So I'm not going to take that mushroom and cut it up and put it in my food. So it's just making sure you're not just becoming your own plant forager and get the right training to pick mushrooms, but get them from a quality source, as you're talking about.
Let someone do the foraging for you. Yeah.
Yeah. In your yard, and using my plant finder app to see if that's edible or not. But I'd rather not go through the process of figuring that out myself. So let's share with the links where to find your product and your peak coffee benefits, social media, website. How can people learn more, and what you are working on the next year with your coffee company?
Yeah, totally. So we're mostly a direct-to-consumer brand. You can find us at peakstatecoffee.com. We're also on Amazon if you like to use your Prime benefits there. I think
everyone uses Amazon these days.
Yeah. And coffee is something you need to reorder a lot. So we make it easy with a plan. You can save 30% if you like it and want to subscribe. Again, all that is at peakstatecoffee.com. And we also give away free samples there. So you can just go get a free sample at peakstatecoffee.com. Additionally, where are we going in the future? So this summer we'll be coming out with a single serve and instantly brewable line to help create a less plastic alternative to some of these K cups and Nespressos, because they're starting to find plastic in our stomachs, and people are moving away from microplastics. So we're coming out with an instant line that helps it be very convenient to consume coffee. And I can't wait to launch that because it's a really innovative product form that most people have never seen. So
like little single serve packets to take with you when you travel.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. I needed that
so,
last week, drinking crap coffee in my cruise room when I ordered my room service for the morning coffee cup of coffee that was like definitely not organic.
Yeah, no, exactly. And if you're local in Colorado, you can find us at farmers markets across the state. You know, we just we're a very kind of grassroots brand. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We don't do a whole lot of retail grocery.
Well, I think farmers markets, I know Encinitas Farmers Market down here in North San Diego is huge with all these companies that I see, you know, growing, like Bub's Collagens down here, Bonafide Provisions, is Plant Theory. I think a lot of companies start from launching in farmers markets that are in health cities like Boulder and San Diego area. So that's where to start. And I think a lot of people just buy things online, but if they can just taste it, they can buy a single serve or just get a sample first, figure out because I met you at Expo West Natural Product Show. My husband did, Neil, and I had it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. So I reached out and had to bring you on the show to share it with you, with our audience, because I thought it was just amazing. And I'm all about stacking, and I'm all about my brain focus, memory, cognition, because I can feel my brain fog a lot. My memory stinks some days, and whatever I can do to improve that, I'm all about. So I appreciate your motivation and your drive to share, because it's a lot of work to launch your own product. And do you have a team with you, or how do you do it on your every day? It just seems like a lot of stress to me.
Starting a business is hard, so you might as well make it a coffee business so that you can keep going. Yeah. It's a very small team. Me and a bunch of part-time helpers in different areas of the business and sales and production and marketing. And so we're still a very early stage brand. So just grateful to let people know we exist and hopefully give people some free samples so they can try it. And we hope to continue to better serve our customers and continue to get our products out there for those who are looking to incorporate some of these benefits into their morning. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really honored and grateful to be here.
Well, people can go to peakstatecoffee.com, and we have a code, the low carb athlete, for 20% off your first online order. So everyone go there, support. I love supporting small businesses and people that are like-minded, ambitious, and into performance and longevity, health benefits for sure. We all need to be concerned about, especially athletes. We tend to do a little bit too much. So counterproductive to being fit and healthy on the inside out. So strive to be healthy and survive the day is not our goal, but to feel that thriving every day and getting the right food in your body and recovery, repair, and optimizing your sleep and reducing stress. I think all that can be benefited by adding a little coffee in the morning with the right amount of mushroom adaptogen blend for your brain health, immune system, stress, and everything else we talked about today. So thank you so much.
And I have one last note I'll end on with coffee and sleep. A lot of people are always asking me about, how do I drink coffee and still sleep? And it is so important to know the answer to this question. So, don't forget to drink water, right? If you're going to be a coffee drinker,
my water with salt in it.
Totally. And you might find that as you get energy from being properly hydrated, you should never drink coffee first thing in the morning. You should have at least a liter of water when you wake up because your body is dehydrated. Perfect. And then, you've earned the right to a cup of coffee. Otherwise you're going to be dehydrating your body that's already dehydrated. And, I say this as a coffee fanatic. Another thing is to, if you're having issues with sleep after drinking too much coffee, ask yourself how much you were drinking and wonder, and see if you can taper your coffee off, taper into a decaf. Try that out. Are you drinking it just because you like the warmth and the taste? If so, consider tapering into a decaf. And then, if you need to, instate a cutoff time for yourself. Like you mentioned, you have one, Debbie, and because sleep, there isn't a single bodily organ that doesn't benefit from our sleep. So, think about your coffee habits and figure out whether you need a hard rule, like myself or Debbie, mine's 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And, or,
sure.
you know, and if you're fine, you can drink it all day. That's great too. But, sleep is more important.
Yeah. So I'll finish my rule, 2 cups maximum, not drinking after 11 for sure. Cold brew, I'm done. If I have after 11, I'm up all night long. Seriously. 2 o'clock is for like decaf in between 11 and 2 if I have a decaf. But usually my body can't drink more than that because I'll get headache or I just kind of feel stomachs like I had too much coffee. My body will tell me when I've had enough. But hydration is key. We did a great podcast a while ago with Rob Wolf, and taking Redmond sea salt is what I put in my water, or LMNT unsweetened. I think avoiding stevia is my goal to everyone, to get rid of stevia because it's in everything. But LMNT or Relight unsweetened, and having that right blend of potassium, magnesium, and sodium. And I have that all the time in my water because you can't hydrate with just water alone. You need to have the right balance of electrolytes to hydrate, especially for athletes. And as it's summertime, make sure you have that. But coffee is dehydrating. So, we always say how much water to have, but having it with stuff in it, I think is key. I just always refuel my water and put sea salt in it. And I just heard someone last week, it does 10 grams of salt a day. And I've read Rob Wolf says 5 grams or more. So athletes in hot weather, and you guys in Colorado, high altitude, I'm sure you need more.
Totally. So, and what else is funny is if you have a mug warmer for your coffee, you can sip it more slowly throughout the day or keep it in a thermos. There's just so many funny little factors that can help you not overdo it if that's your goal.
Yeah, because I don't like my coffee. The first few sips are the best, but if it sits and it's lukewarm, I throw it away. It's not even good. So have the right amount. So coffee tips and water hydration tips for all of you. All right, guys, thank you so much. Make sure you watch the YouTube video, Low Carb Athlete on YouTube, and the podcast version. We're everywhere. Once this comes out on audio, you can learn more and click on the show notes. You get all the information and links to find your coffee with benefits with Peak State Coffee. Thank you so much, Danny.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.